edition of Space Snacks. Today's guest is a good friend of mine, David Lockett. Hi, David.
Hey, thank you. I'm glad to be here on Throwback Thursday.
Yes, I'm so glad that we could meet up today and talk about all of the cool things that you've got going on. And let's start off by telling my audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a STEM teacher, middle school, grades 6, 7, and 8. I also teach a lot space science, robotics, computer science, a lot of hands-on learning for youth. I also serve as a NASA Solar System Ambassador and a space station explorer as well. I love space science and I love getting these projects into our students' hands and, showing how, we can, space is for everyone.
You've been an educator for a while now. How long have you been teaching?
This is my 15th year in the classroom, so it's went by very fast and it's been fun.
And now we're both solar system ambassadors. You're the one who introduced me to that. And space station ambassador also. You do a lot of education outreach. You even have your own summer camps called Camp STEM. Has space always been a part of your life?
Space has always been a part of my life from an early age. I had, parents, and my parents were educators. I had good teachers, science teachers that, they encouraged exploration. I looked outside at the moon and, I said, let's get a telescope, let's investigate these moon craters. Let's find out more about the natural world around us. Let's find out more what's happening in our solar system. So, it's from an early age, that scientific and that space curiosity has always been there.
So did you always want to be a science teacher?
That's a good question. Going through school, going through college, Fisk University, I always knew that science was my passion. I knew that I had that space curiosity, that science curiosity. I wanted to learn more. And I had fabulous professors, fabulous instructors that kind of guided that learning along the way.
Yeah, that's being a teacher is a lot of responsibility, but it also comes with a lot of rewards. Can you just share one of the things that you like most about being a science teacher?
Well, I'll tell you, the most important thing I like is, working with students and showing them something new, giving them the opportunity to experiment, letting them fail in a successful manner. Hey, your experiment might not work the first time. Let's try it again. And they can learn from that. And from there, they get that knowledge, that experience, and those cues to want to design, to want to go beyond. The students that we have today are going to be, scientists, astronauts of tomorrow. So why not foster that learning now?
Oh, I love that. And I love the fact that you've got your NASA shirt on because you actually have some exciting news that you recently got. Can you share that with our audience?
Yes, I was just recently named an Albert Einstein Distinguished Educator Fellow, sponsored by NASA. Einstein Fellows they take K-12 educators in STEM fields across the country to serve in the national education arena. My sponsor is the NASA Office of STEM Education. While we're there, we get to design new elements of STEM programs and implement new and exciting programs for schools and students across the country.
That's really exciting. So you're actually going to be going to DC to NASA headquarters. And one of my good friends, Erin Bonilla, who I interviewed before, she says hi. And she worked at NASA headquarters before for a while.
Good morning.
So are you excited about going to DC and NASA headquarters?
I'm very excited. We're finishing out our school year online, and I'm waiting to tell my students on the very last day of school. I think they're going to be more excited, than I am. The excitement is there. It's going to be an exciting time, an exciting place. Definitely a great team there.
It's really awesome having that opportunity, and congratulations.
Thank you.
One of the things that when we're thinking about exploration, and I love how you were talking about students and getting them to explore, getting them to fail, getting them to learn from the experience of engaging in science and the investigative quality. So if you could go anywhere and investigate any place in our solar system or beyond, where would you want to go and why?
I'd have to say, and I'd have to agree with a lot of people, it's going to have to be Mars. We're coming up here in the next 2 weeks. There's a launch that's coming up, a crewed mission. Not only the geology portion, but that's it's important there. But you're looking at things like the rotation, the access, the atmosphere. There's so many different aspects of that learning that you can implement with your students, and different components and ideas, that have yet to be, invented. You're looking at that new rover. You're looking at different tools that are in place. There's so many different types of learning and challenges that come with that.
And so Mars exploration, and let's talk a little bit about food. What would you want to eat on Mars?
That's a good question. And I thought about this one. Of course, you're going to need protein to get through your day. You're going to need a lot of protein. So I'm going to keep it simple. I love desserts. So I'm going to say cheesecake.
Cheesecake.
Yeah.
Cheesecake is your favorite dessert?
Yes.
Now, do you like it plain or do you like it with stuff in it, like strawberries and raspberries or chocolate chips?
We love the strawberries, cherries,
So anything goes as long as it's cheesecake.
Yes.
And so thinking about science and outreach and connecting with kids, what are some of the best ways? Because I know that you're also into technology. What are some of the best ways that you've seen your students or trends in education and technology in K-12?
That's a good question. I'm going to piggyback off Rosie Santiago. She said that space exploration is for all, and it's true. Space science permeates, nearly every facet, of our society. From technology that we're working with to solving, energy problems, to solving those problems of tomorrow. We've been heavily involved with the NASA Space Apps Challenge. And with the NASA Space Apps Challenge, groups of people can get together and look for ways to solve challenges of the future. You can write an app and programs that solve current and future challenges.
So what have you been doing with what challenge have you taken on with your NASA apps?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if you saw the announcement, but there's the recent NASA Space Apps COVID Challenge. 2 projects that we worked on in the past. We worked on one project that monitored rocket launches. So let's say if you live in the same state that Kennedy Space Center is, which I do, and you drive across the state, there's launches are happening. But you can look at the app and you're finding out, hey, whether or not it's going to launch on time. The second project that we did, and this one's another one that's undeveloped, was an AR/VR app that integrated smart AI technology. So when these astronauts are going to different planets, they can have a camera and they can tell whether or not it can identify an object.
Oh, so you're talking about an app that an astronaut would potentially take to the moon or Mars, and they would use that to identify features.
Yes, kind of an artificial intelligence.
Oh, wow, that's really cool. And so, when you talk about the technology in the future and AR, VR, is that something that gets you excited? Do you want to do more in that area?
I'd like to, as many teachers do, we like to engage our students. And one way is, using cell phones. How can we use these cell phones to, advance learning? How can we use it to, get students involved? How can we get them to realize that they can use their cell phones for more than Snapchat? So when you're thinking about AR and VR, what better way to use them? It's a cell phone. You've got AR apps that can, project Mars rovers. You can use, your cell phone for citizen science. There's so many different ways that you can use these devices in learning for students.
Now, that's interesting because when I talk, I got my cell phone here, my handy, don't go anywhere without it. But when I talk to a lot of K-12, I often hear they don't want the cell phone in the classroom because it's distracting. Versus, I love your philosophy because it's the same one that I have, is that it's a tool that they're carrying around with them. Why not take advantage of it and use it?
Yeah, that's what I say. Use your device to evaluate new learning opportunities. Use your cell phone to come up with new ways, to program. You can code from your phone now. you can add in opportunities for learning that you couldn't years ago. So, every student today has a cell phone. So,
Yeah.
using that BYOD, use it in a way that can advance student learning. Use it in a way that can, allow them to discover new opportunities.
So when we go back to you going to Mars and eating cheesecake, if you could bring anyone with you to enjoy that experience, who would you bring and why?
It's a very good question. I thought long and hard about this. I didn't want to upset anyone. There's so many people, who can I bring? But I'd have to say I'd like to bring Derek Pitts.
You said Derek. That wasn't who I was expecting you to say.
I
Interesting.
really think, you know, serving the astronomy field. He's been at the Franklin Institute many years. Lots of knowledge that he shared. And I could it'd be of course it'd be a long ride there, obviously, but to share those stories and those experiences.
That's a great answer. It wasn't who I was expecting you to say, but I had Derek on recently. And the reason why I know you and I know Derek is through the Astronomy in Chile Educator Ambassador Program. Can you talk a little bit about that and what that experience meant for you?
Oh yeah, the Astronomy in Chile Educator Ambassador Program brings together K-12 teachers, community college professors, higher academia together to advance astronomy and astronomy-related education throughout Chile and South America. Uh, Upon return, those ambassadors come back to the United States and share and disseminate the information uh, in different platforms and different mediums, whether it's in planetarium shows, whether it's in research papers. The experience that we had was amazing. We interacted with students in local schools. We got to visit Alma, which you're looking at currently. It was a great experience. We interacted with teachers, professors. The culture there was amazing. Some good takeaways from that. You're in the Atacama Desert, so what better place? What better place to be?
And what I love about that is that, okay, this picture, like you said, I'm on the far right in the image, you're on the left in the blue jacket there, and getting to go to Alma and all of these great facilities. But then you and I, thanks to you and your hard work, returned to Atacama and ran a small STEM camp. And that was amazing. And so, what was it about the first becoming an ASAP ambassador and going there? What was it that wanted you? Why did you want to go back?
I always say that STEM and space science is universal. You know, all students want to learn. They want to have fun. While we were there in the Atacama, we collaborated. We made these relationships so all students could learn, so they could design, so they could we could bring these elements of education for everyone. Going back and giving back to the school system there, and that working with students and collaborating, it was definitely an amazing experience.
Yeah, I feel so thankful to have been able to go and do that with you and the experience we had. But it's not, you do a lot of these really interesting things. You also went to Africa.
Yes, yes. I've written so many grants, I can't remember them all, but that was one grant where we got to work with students there on computer science program projects, citizen science, and new learning opportunities for these students. And we're expanding those programs. We're expanding it to South Africa. We're working with some students in Colombia. STEM is universal. Space science is universal. Building that equity is what it's all about.
That's one of the things that you brought up that's really important. And a lot of, I think, people don't realize the K-12 spectrum of grant writing and being able to write grants. And so how has that impacted you as a teacher and educator?
Oh, a lot of our schools, don't have the resources, they don't have access, they
Mhm.
don't have the funding, to bring these projects and these programs in. But it is possible. You want to engage all students. I always have that philosophy that all students can participate in STEM. You know, all students can code. All students can become an astronaut. Giving them those tools, getting them those tools, and providing uh, those opportunities, to solve these challenges is what it's all about.
And so when we're talking about food and food in space, and just do you ever do any of your science around food and talking about food?
Yes, we do. There's a project called the Tomato Sphere. Some of our students have done that. And when you're on the International Space Station, you have to think about how are we going to sustain ourselves. How are we going to, grow plants. And looking at those gravity challenges, that zero gravity, the Tomato Sphere challenge is just one of several challenges that you can do. Students can work on in order to, build understanding and give them that hands-on project and process they can benefit from.
Has thinking about food and analog as an analog astronaut and living at home now, being confined, it's like our own little Mars moon simulation or even ISS simulation where your house becomes your spaceship. And for you, are you a cook? Do you bake? Do you take out? Do you
You know,
have
I,
others cook for you?
I'm thinking back on my answer. I'm like, oh, what did I say to this? Uh, I do. You have to sustain yourself. You have to learn how to sustain yourself. So I do a little baking here and there.
Yeah, and so do you have a favorite dish that you like to make? Do you make cheesecake? Have you ever made cheesecake at home?
We've attempted it. We've attempted it a few times. We've been successful once or twice.
Do you guys have a favorite dish that you eat as a family?
We love eating natural whole foods. A lot of salads. Those are always delicious.
Yeah, so keeping it healthy, David, versus
Yeah.
me eating my bacon this morning. So what about drinking? Is there a favorite drink that you have?
Let's see. You got to sustain yourself. You don't want to dehydrate yourself, obviously. I would say, I love Tang. I don't know if our viewers remember what Tang is. No, it's simple.
Do you actually drink Tang?
I was kind of probably right at the end of it. So I can, you know,
That's awesome. So you've got cheesecake, Tang, and then salad, of course. So there's
yes,
healthy and then the not so healthy on the other side.
yes.
Are you a
The big,
snacker? Do you like to snack?
um, we do like to snack. Yes, snacking, you got to sustain yourself throughout the day.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite snack that you go to?
We love protein. We really like to incorporate a lot of beans and legumes into our diet.
Oh, is there any type of bean in particular? A black bean, pinto bean, um,
Mm.
refried beans?
I'd say, a lot of black beans, that protein, you're working out and you've got to have that energy to survive. So,
So do you know, as you're getting prepared to move to DC and work at NASA headquarters, do you have any idea of what you're going to be doing or what you would like to do if given the option?
we've got, what we have a project that we'll be working on, but we have categories we're working on, our main thing is design, new elements of STEM programs, uh, implement, major components of new STEM programs. If you look at a lot of the NASA STEM projects now, you've got the NASA TI calculator challenge.
Yep.
There's various computer science challenges that students can work on. And a big one is to create new tools that all students can use. Whether it's
Oh,
programming, whether it's new collaborations or new sponsorships. You want to implement those new components that are going to benefit national and regional programs.
and so when you're thinking about teacher and because I know you work with a lot of teachers too, because you teach students, but you do a lot to reach out and help the educational community. And so, what are some of the best ways if you're a science teacher? And say you're a chemistry teacher, and chemistry's been what you've taught. Do you have any ideas on the future of education and as a chemistry instructor or teacher, how to become more broad and keep up with all the changes that are happening?
Oh yeah, very very good question. I like to relate a lot of the teaching to current events.
Mhm.
You've got the Artemis mission that's happening. They want to build a lunar outpost on the moon. that brings in a good opportunity for students to design. Students love doing 3D design. They can design in things like CoSpaces. So, they're doing 3D design and development. You look at the new surface suits, that's a good opportunity for, to bring in that STEM and fashion. You look at sustainable architecture, you've got 3D programs there. Students can do that. So you have all of these different aspects of learning, current events that you can bring in and engage students around you.
They sometimes that can seem very overwhelming. How do you keep up with everything?
It's a good question. I look at my professional learning network. I'm a member of National Science Association, ISTE. I lean on these organizations to not only keep me updated, but I interact with members a lot. Whether
So,
through webinars or more.
mhm. Yeah, you were talking about interacting a lot. I know you're very active on Twitter, and so what are some of the things that occur for educators on Twitter?
There's a lot of, you can join Twitter chats. You can join, interactive Twitter chats. We did one last night with Jamie Donnelly, ARVR and EDU. You can, there's scavenger hunts. There's, obviously keynote addresses. I've, there's been instances where I can't attend a conference and I look on Twitter and there it is. They're live streaming. Teachers are, providing points with hashtags.
It was interesting because you're the one who got me into doing a Twitter chat. And he kept saying, "Oh, you got to join us." And I'm like, "Wait, what? I don't understand. What is this Twitter chat?" And so is out of the social medias, is that one of the ones that you feel educators can easily tap into if they want to get connected to a community?
Oh, definitely. I see it from not only a teacher perspective, but I've seen colleges, universities, schools, they're posting relevant information. There's grant information on there, obviously. There's lots of room to grow in Twitter. It's very easy to, to get logged in and start tweeting.
Then what about students? How do you connect in a time like now with COVID? How are you connecting with students? What are some of the best ways? Because I imagine they're not really on Twitter. That's an older group.
Right. A good way to connect with students is obviously Zoom. We're using Zoom a lot in our classrooms. We're using Google Meet. Have these face-to-face interactions with your students. So, not only are you showing them that you care, but you're taking the time out of your day to, give them that personal experience that they want and they need right now.
And so when you're talking about personal experience and stuff, moving back from the classroom to the family and some of the things that do you, being a space person, throw space parties?
I do, I obviously, from my attire, I love space parties. Not only that, because you're meeting astronauts. You're meeting, you're introducing yourself to people that might not have as much, knowledge, about upcoming NASA missions, about upcoming SpaceX missions. It's so fun. You think of Yuri's Night. You think of all these amazing events where you're meeting all these interesting people. I met Mike Mongo. Just so many different, fun people.
Yeah, and so we were at Yuri's Night, Kennedy Space Center. We both have been Yuri Night ambassadors. And the idea of those space parties and how much fun that is. Have you thought about throwing a virtual space party with your students, or have you done that in the past?
I did think about that. How can we have a good send off for the end of our year? Obviously, COVID-19, kind of interrupted our learning a little bit this year, but we want our students to, finish the year strong. Why not have a space party? That way they can, they can learn at the same time. They can learn and they're engaged at the same time.
Yeah, that's so true. Have you been talking to them a little bit about how their house is like a space station and how they interact is kind of the same and some of those things?
Oh, definitely. They understand that they do have to recycle. They do have to reuse certain things. They have to, problem solve if something breaks. They've got to, figure out, how they're going to fix it. They have to figure out what approach they're going to take. So many different variables.
What have you noticed about yourself and your family during this time? Have you, especially when it comes to food and how you're consuming food, is it different than pre-COVID?
I say it is definitely different. We're having to sustain ourselves.
Mhm.
We're having to, implement to new ways of eating. Whether it's cooking, whether it's consuming. We've been eating healthy, obviously. Making it a lot more livable.
Yeah, and thinking about that recycling of, oh, well, the management of resources and how important that is, and also the way technology is impacting that. And so, when we talk about the future and the future of learning, which is something that I'm really fascinated in, what would you say is, from a teacher standpoint, the number one thing that you're most excited about when it comes to the future of learning?
Uh, you know, I've got my own opinion here. I'm going to say definitely, we're producing technology literate students.
Yeah,
We're obviously using technology a lot more, but at the same time, they're becoming more literate.
yeah.
We've got to get, the public discussion going. How can we prepare and approach everyone for this new type of learning that's happening?
I'm a big fan of what you just said. And so digital literacy is one of the things that I build into my curriculum, even though I teach geology. Most of my students are non-science majors. So I want to give them skills that will be useful for whatever major they are. And I think that digital literacy space is so important. But open educational resources is another thing that I'm a big fan of. And now, as you're seeing all of this material go online, what have you been thinking about when it comes to access and equity? Because I know you're a big equity person.
In order to solve many of the challenges that are currently happening and future challenges, we've got to make sure that we all have equity, whether that's equity in STEM, equity in space science, or equity in technology, by, involving everyone in that discussion, by, making sure all of our stakeholders are, you know, intertwined, we can make sure that approach is something that everyone can be a part of.
And it's so important that when we do think about the future of education, we take that into concern along with, I think, the access. How do we get it so that a lot of school districts had issues with having access now that everybody was going online? Did you face some of those challenges?
Yeah, we face some of the same challenges with students not being connected. How can we connect all students? Not every student has access to a MacBook or a Chromebook or an iPad. So, how can we, work with our local congressmen, work with our state assemblymen to make sure we have the funding for these challenges? That's been probably my number one priority over the last month or two.
It's and that's such a hard challenge to overcome because you go into COVID and no more school right away, but if you
Yes.
don't have access, the delay to get students hooked up. Are you in a better place now?
We are in a better place now. We've got students that have access to technology now for their projects. We're working with, all our community, all of our stakeholders. We turned it into a public discussion. You know, if we want to help all of our students, how can we do that? Get everyone involved.
Oh, that's so good. I love that because it really is a community effort. It takes a village,
Yes,
just
it
like
does.
it takes a village to feed everyone, right?
Oh, yes.
Now, do you guys have an urban garden? I know you like salads and things like that. So, are you doing any growing of vegetables or fruits or any of that?
We've got a few tomatoes that are growing out. We're not simulating the tomatoes, but we do have a few tomatoes growing. And we're trying a few more. We're getting there.
We're the same with us. Our tomatoes are just starting to get to the point where they're ripening. I haven't looked up this tomato challenge that you've talked about. I'm going to have to look that up though.
Oh yeah, there's the good thing about space science. There's so many projects that students can be involved in.
Do
We've
you
got
have one that is your favorite? That's your go-to one that you love to do every single year with students?
I haven't got a favorite one yet. I don't want to say I've got a favorite one, but there's we worked on the Genes in Space project, an excellent project. What happens to our genes in space? Is there any physiological change? What happens in that? So the Genes in Space project was a good project that our students worked on.
Oh, wow, that sounds awesome. You make me wanna go back and be a student, again, and just because there's so much good stuff out there. Do your students sometimes feel overwhelmed because there is so much?
They do feel overwhelmed, but as educators, we have to give it to them in small pieces.
Mhm.
We have to, implement learning in a way that all students can, learn at home. They're doing their hands-on activities at home. They're staying engaged. No, I say, give it to them in small bits, and keep them engaged. Try things that are new. But will everything work? Probably not. But will most of it work? Yes.
Oh, I love that. That's such great advice. So, David, can you take a moment and tell us again how we can reach you?
Sure. Best way is on Twitter. I'm at David J Lockett, two T's.
Yep, I
You know,
should have put the J in there because you have that J in on Twitter,
yeah,
and and then we as you go to NASA, we'll have to follow along and see what you're up to. I'm excited to see that.
definitely going to be a fun experience. I'm looking for the challenge. That national arena. And creating new tools.
And then also, I just want to put a shout out that you've got Camp STEM.
Yes, yes, we do nonprofit camps across the country, Camp STEM, and these programs this summer will be virtual as well. And that's
Mhm.
at STEM.
And then those of you guys who are listening, we are giving away a postcard again today. And in honor of David, I had one just picked out. Where is it? Because I know you like desserts. You mentioned it. It's not cheesecake, but it's bread pudding. So
Oh,
anybody who left a comment today, I will randomly draw one person and you will get a postcard recipe from me. And so thank you for tuning in. David, any last words?
explore. Spaces for everyone. Make it accessible.
Oh, so true. Thank you. Thank you, everybody who tuned in. Have a great afternoon on the East Coast and rest of your morning on the West Coast.